Okay, good afternoon to the both of you. How are things so far in your day?
Thanks,
Good,
Bonnie.
good.
Hi,
Good,
Shaz.
good. Well, we're just starting
Hello.
over here in Toronto and I'm first up, so pressure is on. Congratulations on the film. I actually did see it at the Toronto International Film Festival and then just watched it again on the weekend to refresh me. And I loved it even more. Jemima, I want to start with you because, okay, I know it's not an autobiographical film. However, there are different parts of you in Zoe. I mean, she's a documentarian, so were you. What kind of sparked this script in your mind that you wanted to get this down and bring us this wonderful film?
Hi, Bonnie, and thank you for having us on. Yeah, I mean, it is partly, as you say, it's not an autobiography, but it is also inspired somewhat by my time spent living in Pakistan for 10 years, marrying a Pakistani man with British Pakistani kids, and what I experienced and saw whilst I was there. I mean, pretty much most of the characters or anecdotes or lines in the film are somewhat pilfered from real life. So yeah, it's definitely inspired by it.
Yeah. Shazad, it was so wonderful to see you in this. Well, last time we spoke via Zoom was for Profile. Pretty heavy duty film, I gotta tell you, that one was a real heavy. So it was nice to see you in this kind of light romantic comedy. Moments where there's some heavy duty stuff going on here. But for the most part, I love seeing this. And I wanted to know from you, how did you connect to Kaz when you got the script and you thought, yeah, I see a little bit of myself in this guy?
I was yeah. I would say Kaz is he's slightly more of a dutiful son. He's trying to do the right thing by his family a lot more. Yeah, I mean, I know it's like for example, it's always nice to do something complete opposite. For example, to Profile and show something a bit more nicer about our culture than than something like
Yeah.
Profile. But yeah, I mean, I connected it. It was something I related to. I've got cousins that have had arranged marriages or assisted marriages, and it's always nice to try and put the truth on screen like that.
Yeah. Have you ever had the pressure put on you by your family?
Very much so. I mean, my uncle's trying like every week. I get a call. He literally called me a few minutes ago. He's left a long voicemail. So every time, it's once a week. It's once a week.
Has he seen the movie?
He has. He sent me a lovely text after I said, look, now I've been married on screen, so I've sort of done it. So you've seen me do it. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, now you have no excuse, right? Jemima, I wanted to know, I mean, there's so much, going on in here. Well, let's put it this way. Every culture has assisted marriages. Every culture. It doesn't matter. I'm Jewish, we could get it from our end. It doesn't matter who you are, really. But at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe back in the day it worked, you have your parents that have stayed together for 50 years and whatever it is. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? To be put in a situation where you're like, you've never met this person. Some of them just meet on the day of the wedding. Like, I just find that incredible.
It's true. I mean, there's a whole range from kind of forced marriage through to just an introduction by your parents. But I mean, I sort of sometimes think it's kind of just as weird in some ways as
Mm.
like a random algorithm on a dating app directing you to a stranger. I mean, the people who know you best and love you most, is it that, I guess there's pros and cons to all different approaches.
100%. Yeah. It's just that to work on this film with your pal, Lily James, I mean, the two of you are you work so well on screen together. It was so lovely to see that. And I loved, the friendship and how it evolved. Well, listen, the characters knew each other since they were little kids. They, lived next door forever. The families were friends. Tell me a little bit about working with Lily and what a joy it was because she's so lovely.
She's the best. Lily's the best. I mean, I've known her, for about 15 years now. And we used to, mess around at little house parties and do improv together. So to do that in a professional environment is such a joy. It's not stressful going to work. It was exciting to get up and go, all right, I'm going to go and get to play and experiment with one of my best friends. And, it creates a shorthand and I think it allowed us to just get to places quicker that sometimes you might not be able to in a lot of sets. And, so we were already there and we could just try things out and there was no ego. And
Yeah.
it was a really, really lovely, and that was down to Jemima as well. And Shaker creating a really loving environment on set, and it was just a joy to come to work every day, and there was always something different to do. So it was one of the nicest filming experiences I've ever had, actually.
Nice, very, very nice. Jemima, yeah, to work with the director, Shaker Kapoor. I mean, the guy's he's got a bit of a reputation, pretty good track record, I'd say. What was it like for you, Jemima, first to see this come to life and to have him bring it to life? Wow, how cool was that?
Yeah, it's amazing because, all projects, I guess, are such a kind of combination and collaboration of visions. And what you start off with, or certainly like my initial idea and, the first iteration of this is so different from what it ended up being. And I think that Shaker, a lot of people have asked him about because he's never really his thing hasn't been comedies, but I think
Right.
that gave it an extra kind of layer of thoughtfulness and truth. And he's very interested in kind of emotion and the truth of the scene. And I think that we might not have got that if it had been directed by a more kind of sort of straightforward, broad comedy director.
Yeah, he did. Oh, it was just lovely. I hope he does more of these. So he really nailed it. There's no question. Shazad, you spoke earlier a little bit about being the dutiful son, and we all are in that position. We all want to make our parents happy. I mean, here he is. He's a doctor. He's done everything right. Like but I found that the character was just so, yeah, sure, okay, let them arrange my marriage. I mean, oh, I just wanted to get a reaction for you in terms of how much you agreed with that in terms of
I
the
think
character.
I think what he was doing is what was so interesting about Kaz is that on the surface, yeah, everything's sort of a bit blasé and he's just doing it for his parents. But what he's trying to do is hold his family together because he's had this experience with his sister being pushed out. That's what's always interesting to play is two things. That on the surface he's okay, but internally he was going through so much and covering it up. So really, yeah, he's going through a lot of pain, and then it's about whether do I choose to please my family or do I choose to follow my heart? And that's those two things going on at the same time is why it was an interesting character. But I think what he was doing is I'm going to hold this way, my family's not going to be destroyed. If I do this, and then he
Right.
covered it in a very nice way.
Yeah. And then Jemima, it takes an outsider to show a family that maybe you shouldn't, excommunicate people in your family. It's interesting. And when it's kind of brought in their faces, they realize life is too short. And I, how do you feel about that? Because there are so many, again, different cultures around the world that you marry out of your religion, you're dead to me. I don't know. In 2023, is this something that we, really need to take a look at?
Well, one of the nicest things in this whole process for me has been like the British Asian response to the film, particularly here and in Pakistan. And so many people on social media and stuff have said that watching the film has elicited conversations with their family and different intergenerational conversations that have been incredibly helpful and moving and revealing. And so that's been really, really interesting. I mean, I personally come from a long line in unsuitable matches. Both my parents eloped against their parents' wishes. So I'm kind of interested. I was never going to have any version of an arranged marriage, but it's interesting, and I think it does, I think the initial premise for this was having seen lots of really happy arranged marriages. I lived with my ex-husband's entire family. I lived with his father, his sisters, their husbands in one house when I went to Pakistan
Wow.
for 10 years. And they'd all had arranged marriages. And some of them were really happy. And some of them even were very ostensibly romantic. And that kind of confounded some expectations that I had around arranged marriage. And when I came back, there was part of me that was kind of thinking, what would it have taken to get me to the point where I'd say to my mum, all right, I've messed up so many times, you have a go, defer to her. I mean, I don't think that would ever happen because I'm not sure I'd have trusted my mum's judgment. However, that was the sort of initial premise for the film was
Yeah.
at what point would that actually be a possibility? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really lovely. I just love the film so much. And I have to wrap it. Shazad, when are we going to get you back here in Toronto? You spend most of your career here. Are you going to
I
come
know
back?
I was hoping to come to the festival, but yeah, no, definitely. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I can't wait to get back out there. Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. We'll keep an eye out for you. Congratulations to the two of you on the film. I just absolutely adored it. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.